this suggests a lot of things, a lot of questions. Maybe we can begin with the second part of our meeting with the questions of the floor, and also with questions coming from Twitter and MyWise. So you have to see those questions. But if you have some questions in the room.
Good evening. I've been impressed by the different outcomes and standpoints of the three aspects that you have remarked. Actually, the results apparently are on your side. You have been fighting back positively the dropouts effects. But I would like to ask you something. It's beautiful, it's a positive, and you gave me some good tip. I would like to turn the problem upside down. Is there anything in your judgment that could eventually be revised? I don't know, a mistake you made, or something that you couldn't deal with, or, let's put it better this way, let's say, is there a reason for which it's difficult, for example, Madame Acker, to recover that 11%? Which is the reason for which you could recover more than 40% and not that 11? I'm curious about, and I would like an answer from all three of you. Excuse me for my... by the way, my name is Manrico. I come from Italy, from Florence, and I'm of the Barbiana School. Good
Thank
evening.
you very much. Thank you very much. So who wants to answer?
We need to study that more, but there are some students that struggle, and we have worked to give them extra help, okay? But when you're working in really low-income communities, there's a transience problem. You occasionally lose a child because family moves. But yes, we aim for 100%, but I seem to continue to get the normal distribution, where I have 5–10% that walk on water, you know, that get 100%, 90%, and then the other end of the normal distribution. Okay, but I am quite satisfied with where we're going because we were losing 56%, and they're doing well. And we did have a study by the Boston Consulting Group because many people told us our program cost too much money. Well, this is silly because it costs far more for them not to complete. And the Boston Consulting Group, like McKinsey, said every dollar donated generates back $24 to society. The net present value of the graduate is $50,000. So I was quite thrilled at this. And perhaps we could do more, but I wasn't able to raise money or to build on any extra component to chase that tail, you know? But we should always aim for 100%. We should aim for 100%, but we often end up with the normal distribution.
Yes.
You see, it's a process. You never finish. So that's where data collection, disaggregated, is very important. And this is the problem in Africa, how to get the data in a regular basis, one. How to continue doing research action to see where the gaps are so that you can plan better the next year. So it's a process.
I think this question of the hardcore is very, very important. It's a terrible question because most of the countries have this problem with at least 10% of the children. So we have to address very seriously this question, and there is not one answer, of course. But I would like to add that first, those 10 or 15%, we see them at the first age, at the age of 4 or 5. We know that 15 or 20% of the children are predictively the possible future persons concerned by dropout. So actions have to be concentrated on this age if we want to have an effect on those 10%. I think it can be discussed, of course, but I think that's this point. For those 10%, when you have more than 15%, it's because you have special conditions of poverty, like the condition that Karen has described, and so we can have action about that, but it's very difficult to go below to 10% because something has not been done before, even if we have to still...
If I could just say one more thing. Perhaps if we stopped, like we've been doing this since 1960. Since 1960 we've known, or even before, I spoke about one of the researchers the other day who was on a panel, that socio-economic status is the biggest predictor. Okay, but what we do, because the government's levers are in the schools, the government's levers are not in the community. The government continues to spend money revising the curriculum, reforming the school, and criticizing the teachers. I'm going to tell you something. It doesn't matter what you do to the school, they can't solve that problem. Because school ends at 3:30, 4 o'clock. We come in then, it's the community together. We used a systems approach. And again, I want to say our program was not designed to change the teachers, change the parents, change the institution. The role of the student parent support worker is to help the student understand and have a good relationship, negotiation, you hear that again? All right, there's a problem with the teacher. Together, the student parent support worker is the advocate, and they go and solve the problem. So you have good relationships with the student and the teacher, good relationships with the student and the parent. Maybe we can't do everything, but by working on the interstices, the spaces between, and the relationship between the high school and post-secondary. You know, in Canada, to apply to university costs you over $150 and you need a credit card. Now, where is a poor family going to get the money to do that? That's when we start to use this money that I told you we raised. We don't think about this. We take this for granted. This is where we have to look at our invisible bag of privileges. Right?
Thank you very much. We have 15 minutes left, so we have to have brief questions and brief answers in those 15 minutes, beginning with you.
Yeah, thank you very much. My name is Farouk Berni. I'm from Al Fakhura, an organization in Qatar. I just want to congratulate Carolyn on her program. I happened to work for that program when I was in Canada, and I was 10 years ago. And what was remarkable to see now is that program started with one community and it expanded into 11 communities across Canada. My question is that within region community where the program was, there were diverse families from so many different backgrounds. We had Somali communities, we had communities from Bangladesh, from India, native communities, Jamaican communities. How were we able to work with such diverse communities, especially with their families, where they were first-generation Canadians? So what were the kind of challenges that were faced by the program? Thank you.
All of the families wanted the same thing. All of the families wanted their kids to graduate high school and go to post-secondary. So you find a common goal and you work together. But we had done other things to help the community. When you have community garden and you have a Somali farmer gardener here and a Vietnamese gardener here, and I mean, we celebrated the diversity. So we did not have this problem. And the other thing I want to say is they want to be Canadians. So we take the Muslim girls and everybody else to skate. They want to put ice skates on. And we explain to the parents. So they come with their hijab and they skate. They have fun. You know, it's just built a strong community, and they love the diversity themselves, the children. They learn from each other. So for me, it's a major strength, not a weakness. I never had any problem with that. Never.
There is two other questions there, and then.
My name is Sheila Sisulu from the World Food Program. The causes of dropout. I think the chairman of FAWE has talked about early marriages and so forth, and then also the socio-economic background of children who drop out. In the economic sphere, do you find that in Africa in particular and in other places that the lack of food in the household contributes to dropping out, particularly of the girls, and also contributes to early marriage, by the way, and to specifically to the chair of FAWE, has the statistic improved in Africa in the last 10 years, where the dropout rate was largely between grade 1 and grade 2, and it was 50%? Has it changed, and if so, how?
I had a question of Twitter, which is in the same direction, which is, what are the most effective strategies for stopping girls from dropping out of secondary school, understanding that stipends and scholarships often only help with fees and not the larger hidden costs of secondary education?
I didn't quite get it, but the lack of food, I said it. I said, you know, if the child is hungry, he cannot concentrate. So if WFP, in fact, used to help in the countries, give that 1 meal a day. You even have some children that come for that meal, and then they learn anyway. They come and they learn. So it's a way of bringing them to school. And as far as hunger is concerned at the household level, it's true. That's why I said it's important to bring in, for the FAWE, would like in countries, we work with other NGOs, giving some grants to the mothers so that they are able to grow crops or do something else to earn some money, so that they will be able not only to feed the family, but also to pay some the fees, school fees and stipends, whatever, for the kids to continue their studying. It's very important. And you said for secondary?
Yes, it was about the hidden costs of secondary education.
Adolescent pregnancy and early marriage, and also this lack of money. You know, to go to secondary education, school, it's very expensive. That's where FAWE is putting the bursaries, in fact, most of the bursaries. It's some kids that have finished even lower secondary, cannot go to upper secondary because of lack of money from the parents. And when we come in with the bursaries, it makes a difference. It helps a lot.
What is your perception in this field about boarding schools? The importance of boarding schools as a solution to give material conditions to girls and boys who have dropped out or who are in possibility of dropping out?
Countries will tell you that it's very expensive. FAWE has tried to have some what we call centers of excellence, where you have some boarding spaces for girls that have been rescued from early marriage. In Kenya, you have Kajiado. The girls, we rescue the girls because the parents, not the parents, but the religious community has accepted to work with FAWE. So the girls have been rescued, and they are in a dormitory, and they live there now until they grow up. Unless we negotiate with the parents so that the girls can go back and not be given to the older man, not marriage. So we rescue them. But when we try to replicate it in else countries, they say that it is expensive. And the role of FAWE is to give a best practice at local level, and the government should take it up and go to scale. but they are telling us that it is expensive. The World Bank, in fact, a colleague of mine, because I was in UNESCO, he told me, look, Aisha, you are exaggerating in Fawe. How can you go back to, what did you say? What is
boarding school?
Boarding school. How can you come back to boarding school? You know that it is expensive. Come on, stop it. And I said, you will not stop it. I think wherever it is needed, when you have very needy, households that are very, very poor, please, let's have it, so that the kids will have access to education. It's their right.
It's very interesting. In the case of France, we created some boarding schools called Boarding Schools for Excellencies, and with this aim. But we don't have time to develop this point, but I think it's a very important point. There was a question.
Thank you very much. My name is Taysir Naimi from Jordan. I would like to thank the panelists for the kind of programs that they have outlined. My question is for all of them is, don't you think that we need a different conceptualization for the whole concept of dropout? Because dropout, in fact, just account for only 40% of out-of-school children. So the concept, what we are looking for, in fact, is out-of-school children. And there are 4 different categories under that. Only one of them is dropout. In most of countries, especially in the third world, is you have never enrolled students, you have those enrolled but never attended, and you have those who are late in terms of enrollment. And then you have the dropout. And the dynamics and the causes for each one of these categories are totally different. And we have to design our programs and innovations based on a careful analysis for each one of these categories. For example, in this part of the world and in many other countries, although we don't have much in terms of dropout, but some students, they enrolled late because of proximity of a school, because of distance, for example. Parents are afraid to send them because there are no transportation, for example. And other families, for example, they don't send their children to schools simply because they don't have documents, they don't have birth certificates, and so forth. And others, they enrolled but never attended because they are afraid. And then the concept of dropout, which is after attending school. So I think we have to reconceptualize and put a new framework that would accommodate all these categories within a formal and non-formal approach that would work together. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much. 2 answers.
I think I am the best to respond to your question. Why? My father started school. When he came to school, he went to the 3rd class instead of starting early. My grandfather went to the 6th grade. You know why? And I have a colleague who went to school with me. He started at the 11th grade. We did the baccalaureate 1 and 2 together. Why? It's because they had already some education at home. So a lot of knowledge. So building up to what the kid is bringing. I do believe that we need that type of school, an education system which will accept formal and non-formal. You come in when you can, you go out when you want, come back again when you want. How to do it is our challenge today. That's why we are in WISE. Thank you.
Can I just make one comment to you, sir? You're absolutely correct. My story is the dropout story. But what I learned this morning was that 2/3 of the children who are not in school are in war-torn countries. So the conflicts that are going on in the world are keeping 2/3 of the children out of school. This is what we need to worry about. These damn wars.
I had forgotten to tell him, I'm Muslim. So these parents we already know how to read and write before coming to school. So the non-formal becoming to the formal.
Mercedes Zamora. With your microphone.
We have to analyze according to the diagnosis of the situation, which is the learning strategy that we have to follow, because all the cases are not the same, of course. But we have to have an alternative of adult education, because we have to think that if the students drop out, and we don't have any alternative, we have the seats for the future illiterate people in the country. That's why we have to pay attention to the dropout.
Thank you very much. Another question.
Thank you. Thank you very much. Actually, I wanted to follow up on the last gentleman's question, because I think it's critical that we have a sense of what it is that we're talking about. But just to concentrate on the dropout issue, I was interested in the definition, which we didn't get, whether it's time-bound, you know, the dropout. Are we talking about dropping out in school year? Are we talking about not returning the following year, so you get lost to the system? Are we talking about not completing any phase, whether it's primary education? So what exactly is it that we're talking about? Because I think it has an impact on the strategies. I also wanted to comment and say that, you know, government, I agree that the issue of dropout is not only an education issue. But I think governments invest a lot of money in social programs, whether it's health, whether it's social development, and it's important that governments start thinking horizontally, or I don't know which one is across, where they leverage the investments that they make in each of the government departments in support of the child. And I think until governments do that, understand that if education is a priority, it means each and every government department that has social protection policies, those policies have to speak to the way that education functions.
Yes, there is a question of definition of dropout, as you said, and as you say. And that's why we began to say the conception of dropout that we have in all the countries. We have to see that the problem is quite different in the different countries. For example, we saw that in Africa, dropout can be a problem for children with the age of 5 or 6 or 7 in the first year of school, whereas in northern countries, in general, dropout is about children or young people of 15, 16 years old. So that don't prohibit to think globally the problem of dropout, because the problem of dropout is a kind of revelator of the problem of school. That's why we have to see the question of prevention of dropout, and what we said first. Prevention of dropout is seeing the material problems, as we saw, with responsibilization, the psychological problems. Caroline spoke about the culture of failure in some way, so we have to address this problem to prevent dropout, and what we can call the intellectual questions, which is the question of curriculum, the adaptation of curriculum to cultures, as said Mercedes. Those three categories of problems are problems to be addressed to prevent dropout for very young persons, for older persons, and for girls and boys. And we see also that girl is more a problem for southern countries, whereas in northern countries we have a bigger problem with boys. So it's different, but it allows us to try to have a common concept. This is to prevent dropout, but we have to find solution to when there is dropout, and we try to speak about that also. And I think that we see that there is not one solution, because there is not one problem, but a series of solutions, numerous solutions, and I think that what we can get today is some ideas of this spectrum of solutions. We have 5 minutes, I think, and there was another question.
Yes, I am from Mauritius, and I was going to add on the definition of dropout, which according to me, besides all the other problems like socio-economic, poverty, etc., those who do not make up the grade at the level after 5 or 6 years of primary schooling are also dropouts. And maybe those, they did not have a good start. That's why they had to follow the others who were rushing to complete the 6 years of primary schooling. I'm talking about my country, where we have primary schooling for 6 years. So they have to rush because there is an exam after 6 years, and the teachers concentrate on those who can rush and leave behind the others. And we have a program which we have started now, which is the Bridging the Gap program. And that is at the level of the first year only. We ensure that all those who enter the primary schools have the competencies required. Maybe all of them didn't go to the same level of a pre-primary school. Okay, this is one. And I feel that in order to reduce the dropout rates in this part, in our part of the world, because I also consider myself to be part of Africa, government should see that education is made free for the primary and the secondary. In Mauritius, it is primary, secondary, and tertiary. Thank you.
Thank you very much.
It's very important. Early childhood care and education. But we were focusing ourselves on primary and secondary. But start early is the best way. Because then, and also the language of instruction, building on the potential of a child when he or she comes, while we use the foreign language. So when the child arrives, you are not building on what he knows. He has or she has a shock, because you are talking to him or her in a language which, you just don't understand. That's one. Second, these exams, I think we have to lobby and just stop the exams. They are failing our kids. It's true, they are failing them. 6 years, you have this exam, and the level is so high, then you fail 60%, 70%, and if they fail twice, they are out. So we really should get rid of it. Yeah. And also, lower level, you should get rid of it. I say it every time I meet a minister, and they say, it's because you are not a minister anymore. I said, because I believe that we should get rid of it. And also, there was one thing we didn't talk about. It's the conflict, the kids coming from a conflict country, where the parents have to migrate with the children, they have to drop out. In Guinea, we shared our schools when the Liberians and the Sierra Leoneans came to Guinea. Because our kids were not going to school on Thursdays, Saturdays, and Sundays, the kids, the foreign kids, they are our kids because they are Liberians and Sierra Leoneans, they were using our schools. Since they were speaking English while we speak French, we requested the students that ran with them to come and give them. And it was amazing, because the children told me that education means a future for them. And they're very happy.
Thank you very much. It can be the conclusion. You want to add 2 words, or it's okay? Mercedes, you want to add something?
Jose Marti, be culture is the only way to be free.
Yeah.
Okay, I think it's a very good conclusion, of course. Yes, you can applaud. I have to add some practical informations you must have. First, there is a gala dinner in the conference hall from 7:30 to 21:30. The shuttle buses are available in your hotel, and the doors open at 6:30 and close at 7:15. You have to return your translation headsets when leaving the room. And also, you have to know that tomorrow at 9:45 a.m., following the plenary session panel discussion, we will have Gordon Brown, former Prime Minister of the United Kingdom, making a case for the importance of education and highlighting some of the obstacles to reaching the MDG on universal basic education by 2015. So tomorrow you have a conference of Gordon Brown. That's the resume. Thank you very much.